Now, Reggie, I've heard people say that Paul does some kind of funky stuff with the Old Testament in Galatians. Like in chapter 3, he's talking about Abraham's seed, saying that he wasn't talking about plural seeds, but only one, and obviously that can only mean Christ. But then they say, but the original meaning was plural, and so Paul's just reading Jesus into the Old Testament. Is that what he's doing here?
Well, I think he has learned to read the Old Testament in light of its fulfillment in Jesus. But when you go back to Genesis, I think you find on a closer read that he's reading the text for what happens in Genesis. In Genesis 12 and 15, God gives the promise of seed. And, it's a singular noun, but it's got a multiple meaning. It's got a plural meaning. And he tells Abraham, your seed is going to be like the stars in the sky, the sand on the seashore, innumerable. But Abraham understands immediately that promise of multiple seed is going to have to be done through a singular seed. Thus, the little scenario that plays out where he has Ishmael through Hagar, because he won't wait for the son through whom it's going to get done. And then by Genesis 17 and 22, it's very clear that we're talking about a singular seed. It's Isaac, and that's why the scene on Mount Horeb in chapter 22 is so dramatic, because the means by which God would fulfill the promise, plural seed, it looks like it's going to be just aborted, because God's told him to kill the one seed through whom it can be done. Now, fast forward, and Paul finally sees that the singular seed through whom God is going to bless the nations has been Jesus. And so he takes that dense, complex idea and packs it all together in Galatians 3. But it's not because he's not reading the original context. He does see that original context was a tremendously fertile one itself.